1 half bid at 180.
Back on?
91 half bid at 91.80.
Yeah,
Again,
back
half
on.
bid here now. 1 half at 180. 91 half bid at 91.80. One half bid at 180. One half bid at now 180. Again, 91 half bid here now. 1 half at 180. 91 half bid. Half bid at now. 1 half bid at 2 even. 91 half bid at 92. 1 half bid at 2 even. That's your 12 noon bell here on the Chicago 4-1. Again, it's 12 o'clock here now. Kind of a quiet lunchtime trade here in your S&Ps.
12 o'clock. It's my call. Turn off Mr. That other one there. And let's get Danny on the line here. Let's see what we have here. Let's see. Give him a shout. So when Day Trader Rockstar does an interview, we never pre-interview. This is always live. You never know who you're going to talk to. You get a guy in a Buffalo on. You don't know what he's about. You get Jen Johnson on there. You don't know what she's about. We know a little bit about Danny Riley. Danny Riley, well, hopefully I'll let him, from Mr. Top Step. Let's give him a call right now.
Vision.
Hey, Danny?
I'll get Danny 1 second.
I was calling right down at the pit, I could tell.
Danny.
Hey, Danny, this is John Carisco, Day Trader Rockstar from Day Trading Radio.
Hey, John. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. I know
Not at all. Not at all.
Are you right now down at the pit?
Yeah, I'm right at my desk, about 10 feet from the spool pit and about 5 feet away from the options.
Wow. Well, it's an honor to have you on our show. We know you well through the Mr. Top Step videos. We wanted to reach out and say, hey, it's great that you could come on and maybe introduce yourself. And I know you guys.
No problem. I mean, listen, I've been following you for a long time. I'm one of your fans too, so
I appreciate that.
I'm happy to be on.
Excellent, man. I'm very happy about that. Well, anyway, you work down at the pit. You have your Mr. Top Step. You guys do your market calls. You have great videos. You have such a good team. Give me a little background on what you guys do down there. And what do you do?
Well, John, the thing is that we back in the day when the old pit in the CME when the S&P pit was at 30 South Wacker, I started up the largest, I think, execution desk on the floor. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say clearing because most of what we were doing was we were taking orders from like Tudor, Bacon, Kovner, Soros, all the big hedge funds. And part of that had a little bit to do with, at the CME there was a bunch of broker groups. And when I came over from the Board of Trade, I came over as an independent guy. And what we did a little differently over there is we really fought for the trading fills that were, the orders that we were putting in and taking out of the S&P pit. A lot of guys back then, as you know, and you were around back then, there was something called dual trading in the S&Ps where the broker and the pit could actually, I could yell in, I could do a hand signal, say, hey, buy 1,000. And the guy in the pit could actually trade his own account while he was buying and selling for the customer orders. So we put up a big fight about that back in the 80s and early 90s and before electronic trading. And I think that's really where we got our reputation, more sticking up for the customers and fighting for the fills type stuff. But as you know, what happened with electronic trading, all our direct lines on the trading floor kind of disappeared with, once the platform started showing up and more of the open outcry stuff started disappearing in the pit. I didn't react right away to that stuff, John, and it's too bad because we sat there for about a year and a half or two while the mini started going up and up and up in volume and the open outcry stuff got smaller and smaller. Now, a big fund like Morecap would still use us in the bigs because I was still down there trying to punch it out. But as you know, we can move we currently, like when we take orders on the desk, we take orders to buy and sell 5,000, 2,500, 10,000 minis at a time. And that stuff you can get done in a half a point or 2 points. You know what I mean? In the old days, when we were trying to wrestle a 1,000 lot or a 2,000 lot out of the S&P pit, it was a little bit more rambunctious, a little bit more fighting going on when we were doing that. But but anyways, what happened is as we were progressing, I didn't know what to do. And one day I came in, and my partner Brian didn't want to do options, and the woman that runs our upstairs operation didn't want to do electronic trading, and the pit was just disappearing in front of us. And I went to the CME. And I requested that they move our desk down in front of the S&P options, and then not too soon after that, a couple of years later, we became second in volume in the S&P options. So, what I did to communicate with the clients back there, and if you want to jump in, you can jump in anytime. But when the direct line started disappearing, I'm like an old hack, I mean, I'm an old hand signals guy. I mean, I can do options, but I'm really not an options guy. I mean, I've been on the floor for 35 years, and it was all futures. And but one day I moved the desk down in front of the S&P options, and we put in some terminals, and I started downloading some AOL instant messages. I hooked up a couple of guys from hedge funds, and
wow.
They asked to have more guys put into it, and eventually that list got out to. I went through everything. I was using, Trillion. Then I went into Pivot. I mean, I was blowing up everything in sight. But at one point, we had about 400 or 500 banks, prop firms, and hedge funds all on one box.
Wow.
And what I would do, I've got a long-term, background in program trading. I did all the UBS program business. For about 8 or 9 years, and it was easy back then because think about it, Rockstar. I got 500 to sell or 1,000 big S&Ps to sell, and the guy next to me, Brian's selling them, and I pick up the UBS line and I just yell, "Give me a bid," and that would be the way we would knock out sell programs. But as you know, that's all gone online. So when I started putting people into the instant message, more and more people wanted to be included. And along those lines, I teamed up with Option Monster a couple of years ago. We had them do it. We were doing videos for them up there, and we broke off from that and went off on our own. And CME came back to us. We're really one of the only groups on the floor that are allowed to do what we do. And they came back to us, asked us if we wanted to resume our video stuff, and we built up the website. We've got a little chat room. It's not big like yours, We've got about 100 guys on one chat. We've got about 300 on another, but it's really up to date. Whenever we're seeing any paper in the S&P pit, and there's not much in here.
Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, what is the benefit of being down there? Because we get to hear the pit when we listen in on Ben Lichtenstein down there calling the markets, and we hear all this stuff going. And being down there, you have to have some advantage being in the markets for so long.
Yeah. And I know about Ben's service, and I think that the service was a lot more prevalent back, back in the days when there was, 200 guys in the S&P pit and there's orders flying all over the place.
Yeah.
Today, as maybe 3 or 4 times a day, someone comes in and buys or sells 300 lots, and probably the same guy using different guys. But I think what it is that traders as a whole find it, that one, they probably don't want to sit at home. And 2, they've been in here for a long, long time, and they feel that they've got an advantage to being in the pit, being able to bid an offer, open outcry, and they've got headsets on connected to a guy outside the pit doing minis. So they're kind of a hybrid trader.
Yeah.
Is there any real advantage? No, not at all. No. And to tell you the truth, Rockstar, these guys are these locals down here, they've set their sights a lot lower. At the most now, there's probably 80 guys in here on a big day, and they've set their sights a lot lower. They're trying to make 500 or $1,000, just like a lot of other guys that are trading online outside here.
Exactly.
But the big thing about the floor is that if you walk around, and if you're ever in Chicago or any of your guests are around, I'd be happy to give them a tour. What you'll find is that you've got a bunch of these pits like the bean pit and the corn pit, and there's not a lot of guys in there anymore, maybe on the opens and closes. But what you'll see is that the option pits throughout the floor are very big. They're very robust. Like the corn option pit has probably 150 to 200 guys in it. So over in the Euro option, they've got about 300. And when I look around to the other side of me and all the interest rates, the 2, the 5, the 10, and the 30, that whole area back there is filled with about 300 or 400 people. So, you know, the floor is it's transgressing, I guess, what you could say, but it's really becoming more of an options exchange.
What do you think, in your experience, now that we have experienced the machine, the boxes that are trading the markets now, and what do you see the future as? What do you see your future? You've been doing this for so long, and you've seen the change.
The thing is that I think what we've learned over a period of time is that anybody that left early, you know, there's only 3 people down here. There's the guys that pick up the phones for the business. There's the guys that bring in the business, and then there's the traders that trade against the business. You know what I mean? So for that, there's still quite a few people down here on the floor that have a lot of options business they do. As far as the futures business, it's pretty cashed. I mean, we don't even try. The desk here doesn't even really go after any big futures business. There's no reason to. Do I see an end in sight for the trading floor? Sure I do. I think MF Global has a lot, you know, may have hurried that process up. But at the end of the day, you know, there's no platforms out there that can beat my guys at the end of the desk. Like John Fishel, he came over from Spear Goldman. He's an ex-prop trader. He's sitting in front of a Globex terminal. You know, he's got a bunch of hedge funds that call him up and hit him up to buy and sell thousands of minis and stuff like that. And we charge 50 cents a whack for that. So if we do 10 or 20,000 minis in a day, you can figure out the math. And then, you know, before MF Global blew everything up, we were doing anywhere from 150 to 300,000 options a month at anywhere from 75 cents to $1. So, you know, I don't think I can be running from here anytime soon. You know, when they change the game a little further, maybe. But, you know, right now, one of the biggest S&P option funds trades to our desk, and we've never spoken to him. I've never spoken to him on the phone. Everything is done by instant message. Wow. He quotes up via the instant message. My guy quotes it into the pit by hand signal. He gets it back. He hits it back up on the instant message, and he says buy or sell. So, you know, there's a gigantic reduction of human, touch-to-touch stuff going on, but they still haven't devised a good platform to take out these options yet. So
let me just ask you another important question, because I guess right now your job is to make your clients money. And in this market right now, do you feel, you know, what would you direct people? What do you guys do in your room that helps people make money? What's the focus these days?
Well, I particularly, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, Rockstar. I'm not, you know, when it comes to a lot of this platform trading and algorithm trading, I can't tell you what the internals are, all of that, but I do read the boards really well. You know, reading the differences between the S&P and S&P cash, and knowing when there's stops at certain levels, and knowing how the market reacts is kind of what we relay out there. But one of the things that I've done over the last 3 or 4, you know, over the last 2 or 3 months, I mean, since the beginning of the year, maybe only one time did I really turn negative this stuff, and I've just continued to tell people that, you know, look, we know that as traders that, you know, when the markets are going up, they're always looking to sell them. And what I kind of advise our guys is, look, you've got 2 options. You can, and this goes with not including today with the S&P down 18 handles right now, but up to this point, what we've advised everybody is to continue to stick with the trend. You know what I mean? That you've got 2 options. You can sell that early morning rally, or you can just wait and buy the decline. And to tell you the truth, that's what I've been advising my guys to do all the way up.
I know back in the day, we were able to, you know, sometimes actually see the market get into a rhythm. It might be every Monday the market would gap up or move up, and then Friday it would sell off, and you'd get into that trade that you could go into each week. Are you noticing any of that coming back? You know, are we noticing that bias in the early week?
We're seeing a little of it come back, but you know, Mondays have been like the slowest volume day of the week.
It's amazing
it seems to me that they're really ruled. It's like what Marty Schwartz said to me a couple days ago. You know, it's like moving water around in the bathtub. When the volumes are this small, you know, you don't need that big of. If you've got some order flow, or, you know, a year-round order flow, you get to move the market around. So we have seen a little bit of that, but you know, you do. I know what you're talking about. You get that kind of early strength in the beginning of the week, and then you get a little bit of weakness toward the end of the week. But, you know, one of the funny things is what we just saw just recently was that rebalance and how they advertised the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And then on Friday, in comes a $1.6 billion sell, and we're about a handle off the high of the day. You know what I mean? So, I think the way this works now, Rockstar, is you got to. It's an ever-changing environment. You got to be willing to change your tools around a little bit. And really just staying on top of the market. I mean, what I do every morning, I get up at about 4:30 in the morning. I look at all the foreign markets. I look at some historical stuff. I try to put it all together. But by the time I get down to the floor, generally I have a pretty good impression of what I think is going to happen for the day. Like this morning, when we put out our morning report, I said, look, the thing is loaded with sell stops. We haven't had any big down days. The Fed's printing presses are, they're talking about shutting them down.
Yep.
And, you got a Moody's downgraded G. You kind of got you have reasons to sell the S&P today. Well, I guess my question would be, does that hold up tomorrow? I just don't know. I mean, we've got 14 and a half weeks of going higher, and we're finally getting it down 20 handle day.
Yeah, and it's hard not to just say accept it, right?
Oh yeah. And it's also hard to fade it if you go against it here and the market drops. You're going to be stuck holding high inventory. But at the same time, the patterns that we see down here, especially like what we saw yesterday, late in the day, they have them down all day. They're hitting sell stops and they're doing programs all the way down, and then late in the day, all of a sudden, the S&P starts short covering, and out comes a big buy imbalance. So, I'm like everybody else. I want to see the thing down, and I want to see a lot of these traders have an opportunity to start selling this, but I'm still a little reluctant to think that this is it. Every time we said it was it before, the thing rallied in our face. So.
It is amazing. I mean, there's so many variables too. I mean, between the QE3, the presidential election, I mean, it's just so much going on. I mean, Danny, before I forget, let's talk about your service. I want to actually help you because I want to get you more on our station. I think it would be great, in your free time to ever come on. We set up something where you could actually do a market call from down in the floor.
And I'll tell you what, I have no, if you want to put up that closing print video on your website, or you want me to call out some stuff for you, I can do that too. But yeah, I want to work with you completely, and I want to let everybody know that I don't, I was at a meeting with Futures Trader 71, and he's a very nice guy, and he said, well, we're kind of competitors, and at the end of the day, I don't think we are competitors. I think what happens is if you've got good stuff that you can help people make money with, they get to decide where they want to go. You know what I mean? And if we work together, it's a much better thing for you. It's a much better thing for me, and it's really much better for the clients that are out there that are trying to figure out what's going on in the market. So, whatever we can do, if you're interested in getting me back on the radio a couple times and chatting,
absolutely. I mean, you have free reign on the. Who did I talk to? Set this up. Was it Mark? I forget who it was. Bob. Bob, one of our guys in the office. Yeah, and
what we could do is if you guys like it, we can pick a time. I'm sorry that it's so dead down here. One of the things about the New World Order is the S&P can be down 18 handles and there can be no noise. You know what I mean? Yeah. In the old days, this would be a battle. The Fed would be blasting with people, and orders would be flying in and out of there, and I'd be swinging if I had to.
Yeah, but you know what? Just hearing about that is cool. To be on and share your experiences, even as a little part of the market update, see what you see in the market, what you're looking at. You're kind of your report, and any type of gems that we have from your experiences in the pit is just it's probably worth it's worth just from the historical perspective.
Right. Well, I appreciate the look, and I'm more than happy to continue to provide content. And maybe what we should do, we should maybe talk offline. And one day when you've got time and figure out what the best way to do this. But there's a lot to be said down here, and I think that what the most thing that your guys can take away from this is that the floor is really not dead. It's not over. And in fact, if you've got a lot of guys that are trading, and they've got a high commission rates, I'll just throw this out there. you can lease an IOM seat in the S&P pit for about $500 a month, and you would probably cut your commissions down by 75%.
Wow.
There's things that and there is things that are still available that we see during the day that are really important to traders. And like when the markets well, I mean, for instance, one of our rules, I think is the 10-handle rule, and we've got exactly a 9-handle trading range. Now we're on the low end of the range, which would make me think, my partner Brian's pointing out the Globex low and the day low. They're both right in line, 89 and 89.30. But the way it looks to me is that we should flush a little lower here in the afternoon. We've got a lot of stops that are built up under 80 evenish, and I think you get back under 89. You see 87, 86 into that. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff that we can work with on, and the one thing that I would be concentrating on trying to help people understand is that you can actually read these programs. Once you figure out how to read fair value, and about this stuff, and keeping in touch with where the program levels are. For instance, one of my little things is the market opens up a couple of handles higher, right?
Yeah.
It chops around for a little while, it back and fills, and then it rallies up. It rallies up another 7 handles, whatever. It falls in line with the 10-handle rule, but I'm not really even concerned about that. What that tells me is that what happened was when the market sold off a little bit, the S&P came down a little bit, that more than likely the locals in here or the retail-type paper probably sold into that decline. And what happens after the S&P backs and fills a little bit, it catches a bid because all those little stops that are put in above the market. When the S&P is this thin, I mean, this like I do. I mean, we were printing 6 million minis over the summer. We were doing record volume. Now we're doing 1.8 million, 1.6 million, 1.7 million a day. Right now we've got 1.35 million on the board, but we're not seeing the volume like we were, Rockstar. It's just not here. So the bottom line is when people say, well, volume's really not that important, my ass, it's not important. It's really important because even more so today than in the past, because the algorithms and the program traders are making up a large share of this volume. I mean, on a given day, I think last week according to NYSE statistics, I think it was 79% of the NYSE volume.
Wow.
So when you're not printing that many minis, and you've got these little declines and little rallies, what happens is the retail puts in these stops, and once the market sells off a little bit, they start to put their stops in 2-3 handles above the market, and they trail them up and down. And what happens is the premium levels between the S&P and the S&P cash widen out, and then in comes a buy program. And that buy stop actually lifts the offer of the futures that sets up the buy program in here. It's almost like musical chairs.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is during the day I try to break down that and I try to explain that to people about what's going on. And that's really that's one of the things I think I'm really good at. Kind of reading the boards kind of stuff. Now, I got to admit it, when I'm off the floor and I'm looking at these platforms and I don't have the last 6 trades on the board in front of me and I can't see the last 6 trades in the cash, it's harder for me to read.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that after all these years of being on the floor, I really think the boards talk to me a little bit. It's kind of like pattern recognition kind of thing.
It is, and you're right. And after that time, and I guess that's something you have to develop over time. There's nothing that someone else is going to just come in and start trading and actually see that. You really need to be in front of it day after day after day before all of a sudden you start to see it with your third eye. It's like something out there.
And a lot of times I'll see guys like. We've got like 4 or 5 guys. The theory behind us is that, when you have one guy kind of leading it, and I'm not talking about your service. I know you've been trading this stuff forever. I'm talking about other services that go out, and they've got one guy telling everybody where to buy and sell. Now, what happens if that guy goes cold, or that guy doesn't make money for a couple of weeks? The service is blown up. And what we've done is we've got about 4 or 5 guys actually. George Cavaligos from Bear Stearns that teaches. He was in the bonds on the CME floor for about 14 years, and at Bear Stearns and J.P. Morgan. He knows the 10-year like the back of his hand. So who better to learn the 10-year from than George? So We've got another guy, Mike V, in the room. He learned Mark Fisher's vow windows and pivots, and we've got about 4 or 5 guys in there that are actively putting out trade ideas all day long, and we kind of let the subscriber kind of figure out who he likes, But you know how it is in here. You can be consistent for 3 or 4 days, and then you start to get beat up by all this program shit. And if you're trading against a trend, you know how that ends up. So.
Yeah. Well, the battle will continue probably for a while.
Yes, it will. Absolutely.
We'll continue to try to figure it out and stay one step ahead of everything. And I always call it the musical chair syndrome. You want to be in the right direction, but when the music stops, sit down real fast.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about when the music was going to stop, and I've been pretty much impermeable. I've been saying for about 2 months that you want to really look out to the middle of April, around the tax time. The end of the best 6 months for stocks, comes in April, and then you've got that old adage about selling in May and walking away. Mm-hmm. We are planning on putting on some type of put spreads, some cheap. We're looking for some trades that are cheap. It won't cost a lot of money to put on, but if the market moves down 50, 60 handles, you'll get paid pretty well. But again, I just don't know. And I guess my question to you would be: is how do you see the futures here at 1390? Is this the beginning of something that is going to continue down, or?
I think this is going to be one last opportunity on buying a dip. And I use a couple little different technicals, that just kind of give me a timing thing. Using different time frames on the stochastics, and it just seems like the pullback is overdue. But we pulled back very quickly with some of the indicators, and we're holding off from that recent low, which was around that. What was that recent low again?
The old 81 low.
Let's see what we got here.
I think we made a low at 81, then we rallied like 35 handles.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that 95 area on the cash.
Yeah, right. And I think there was a recent low at 83.
Yeah.
There's a big congestion down there, but there's a ton of sell stops into that level. And in fact, they just kind of did a little sell program now. And I guess if your listeners if they've got the capability of looking at the S&P cash,
yeah.
What I do is I just take fair value, and I take $1 under fair value for the sell program levels and $1 over for buy program levels. And what I do is I just keep an eye on the S&P cash, and you'll see these little blips in the cash where they'll move 5, 6, 8, 10 cents. But the best way to detect these sell programs or buy programs is when you see these 30, 40, 70-cent clips in the cash. You know what I mean? Like right now the cash is $13.95. I've got 21 on my high print, but I've got $13.94.92 as my low print. That's a 40-cent drop, but it didn't go down quick enough for me to think that it was a real sell program. But when I see this kind of stuff setting up near a low, it generally means that they're trying to get the stops underneath the low.
Yeah, and you say that, and that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of people that hear, what you just mentioned there, that they're able to recognize where the stops would be logically in the market, and then who is the person? How did they find the stops? Who is the person in charge of this?
Yeah, there's no way to. That's the $1 million question. There's really no way of telling where the stops are. What we do is. We've got some, because the desk had done so much retail for a long time, and there's a couple of systems that still trade the big S&P. We followed, and we're hitting some stops right now, and we are doing a sell program there. The cash just dropped from 99 down to 52.
Yeah.
But that said, there's really no way to tell. But I mean, we've been around a lot of this retail for years, and we kind of know some of the systems that are put in and how they trail stops. So. We kind of have our own little method of following it, but I mean, any time the S&P drops to a low, generally, like I do, there's going to be a buy stops a couple 2, 3 handles above, and then once you get above there, you go another 3 handles. There's going to be another set of stops. So, any 3 handles off the low, 6 handles off the low, that kind of stuff is kind of the way we follow it.
Oh, that's good. That's great. It's actually very, we never really talk about that, and that's, again, something maybe we could talk about more later on.
Absolutely. And as you know, when the volume, what I'm trying to point out is when the volumes are this light, it just seems to me I can read it easier now because I can just see it the way it comes across on the boards that they're searching, they're hunting for sell stops. You know what I mean? And it's almost like the algorithms help push it to the level, and then the program arbs take over once their bids get hit out. It's like what you said. It's like musical chairs. They just go in, go out, go in, go out. But that's really that's what's consumed. That's what this is all about now. It's and as traders, what we try to tell people, trade less, and that's really the key to all this is being patient. If you come firing away, you got your pistols all loaded up, you got your 6-shooter ready to go, and you're ready to blast them all off in the first hour. Yeah. You're probably not going to end up real well in the last hour. So, what we try to do is we let the opening range get established, try to figure out the price action a little bit. Still kind of try to look to buy this weakness until we're wrong, but I guess we'll see how this plays out this afternoon.
Let me ask you just a couple more questions from the listeners in the room. They've been bothering me with questions. You probably can't see the room; you're not in there. So, question for Danny. Who the blazes are the local? All right, these are going to be questions that, of course, some people are going to know these. Some people, I'm just getting these in here. Who are the locals, and why are they consistently getting the market ass backwards?
Why they?
That's the email just came in. I guess we'll start off with where's the locals. When we listen to the pit, you can actually hear there's paper coming in. There's the locals, and we hear Ben a lot. Ben Lichtenstein do his thing, and lots of times he describes that the locals are always caught short or something, or they.
Well, that's kind of true. I think that there's and it's kind of like what we were talking about with the retail guys. And I mean. All the fast money that was ever made was made in the S&P. It was on the downside. You know what I mean? So it tells me that one, I think it's human nature. You come in, you don't own them, so you sell them. You know what I mean? And that's really the mentality in here. And I understand what he's saying out there about Ben kind of hyping things up. But at the end of the day, right now there's 40 guys in the pit. And the guy from Goldman right now is selling a 2-lot. I can't give that to Marty Schwartz. I can't give that to the Royal Bank of Canada. I can't give that to Morgan Stanley. No. You know what I mean? They're not up for that. What they want is they want trade. They want flow, and that can come in the form of just about anything. That can come in the form of any kind of buyer that we're seeing on the electronic or in the pit. That can come in the form of a big option trade we're seeing. And we do a ton of those. It can come in the form of knowing when there's stops and buy programs or sell programs going on. Trading flow is what connects traders, together, whether they're on the floor or not. But I think is what Ben's doing up there. He's doing a good job. We've got a little squawk that we set up, and what we do is I only go on about 2 or 3 times a day, and if I see people that they're all picking levels, to sell. And I think the thing's trending higher. I'll get on and I'll say, look, you guys, the easier trade's this. You just buy the weakness when the shit goes down and stop fighting it, Yeah. But there is a big thing about the locals in here wanting to sell. They've always been that way.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. There's and to be able to talk to you about it and get your feelings on it. You're giving us a lot of time, Danny. I appreciate it. I want to talk to you more. Of course, we'll do that off the air. Your site is Mr. Topstep. When people want to go and they want to check out what you have, how do they get there?
There's a report that I've been writing in my bad spelling and punctuation, and it's gotten a lot better now that I'm a little bit more institutionalized. But I write, and we've written a report, and I write, and I've been writing it for 20 years, and it's an overview of what we saw in the S&P. Today, and it'll be written up tomorrow, and then there's a daily call that we put in there, and it's more of an overview of direction more than levels, just kind of a feeling thing of what we're seeing and what we're kind of thinking, and that they can sign up for free, and if they care to join and get a free week of the chat room and look at what we're doing in there, they can sign up for that too. It's right on the front of the Mr. Topstep website.
Excellent.
And we wouldn't mind granting you access in there too. So if you ever want to join in and let us know what you're looking at, that's really, I think the idea of sharing stuff is more important than trying to make money. I mean, I didn't start this out to make a lot of money. I did this to help people learn to trade, to carry on the tradition of what we've done down here, and try and keep people connected. That's really what I've done. And to tell you the truth, the company makes some money. I've never made a penny off it. I put everything that I made on the company back into it.
Nice. Well, you have the right attitude, and that's why people are attracted to you. In
Well,
a good
I
way.
appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to doing more business with you, Rockstar.
All right. Thanks, Danny.
Okay, you can call me anytime.
All right. Thanks. I will. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You got it.
All right. Nice. All right. There's our Mr. Top Step Danny Riley interview. He is a nice guy. He's a nice guy. I'm drunk. No. Someone started a Rockstar drinking game in the room. That was cool. That was really cool. It was nice. You know, that's one of the original. You know, Danny Riley, man. He's Mr. You know, he's down there. He has a desk right there off the floor. I could hear the guys in the background chatting and stuff, and you could see he's in the fire every single day. And again, we'll get him back on here. Just I want to hear old stories. You know, well, I'll call him up. I'll get a conference call. Guy in Buffalo, Danny Riley, Jen Johnson. We'll all be on the line together. I'm making some connections, huh? I'm making some connections this week. All right. I got the impression maybe he wasn't a big fan of Ben's. I don't know. I mean, it's just my spider senses. And then he talked about FT71, which was interesting. Yeah, and so everyone seems to know everyone in the business. Honest to God, I had no idea that Danny Riley was a fan of the show. But that was a great compliment. That made my day. I feel really I feel proud. Yeah, let me save this. Let me save this. So you're gonna go. I'm gonna just go off the air for a second. Save this video. Get that posted on the site, and then be right back here. I should have asked him about Bo. I should. Be right back.